So this is just for me for baby diaries or mommy diaries. I'm tired. I'm very tired, but I'm trying to keep up because I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. This is traveling in the first trimester. Hey kids, I'm Selena from the city and beyond, and I'm pregnant with my first child. I wanted to do a little mini series about this topic because I watched a lot of different videos about, traveling while pregnant, and it really did make me feel a little bit more secure about my decision to do it and kind of got a peek into what to expect. So I wanted to make this mini series one video per trimester. On this channel, we do make a lot of effort into inspiring and teaching full-time employees on how to take full advantage of their time off from work and part-time travel. I thought this was an important topic to cover because expecting parents probably, from what I know and friends and family, that you do feel a little bit of this looming feeling that this part of your life is over, especially if you have a full-time job, and that's not necessarily true, especially during pregnancy. Let's get into traveling during my first trimester. He's still kicking. Oh, brother. Okay, interruptions. This trip was actually to Great Britain and Portugal. The part where we went to England was a group trip. It was me and Kamal's first group trip, which means that a lot of our itinerary was coordinated through the people who ran the trip. We also were with a group of people we didn't know. I was about 9 to 10 weeks pregnant when we spent a week with these folks, and it was a little difficult concealing that that's what was going on, but I think we did a pretty good job. If you're interested in watching videos from that trip, the videos themselves or a playlist will be in the description below. So the first thing I want to talk about during this time, one of the biggest things was that I was significantly more tired. I loved the trip that we had, but if I could have been a little bit less tired, that would have been great. I think that some parts even Kamal would have enjoyed more if I wasn't so tired or needed a break. But tiredness in that first trimester is, for most women, if not all women, is a lot. It's a lot. And I think it's not only a lot on you, it's a lot on your partner, because if they're used to you being alert and like up for anything or whatever. Is it different from how we usually travel?
Yeah, it is much different from how we usually travel because we have set itinerary, whereas our itinerary is typically flexible. I feel like on a day like today, we would just stay in and cancel or rearrange our plans. But because we prepaid for all of this on this group trip, we're trying to maximize how much we put into it. And unfortunately, by the time we got on the bus, Selena realized that she was not really up to it, like energy-wise. And what we thought was going to be a long trip because of how the schedule was originally dictated turned out to be a 10 to 20 minute trip.
Yeah.
So there was no, like sometimes on these longer bus rides we'll just like sleep on the bus. And that was going to be Selena's recharge. There was no time for that. There was no time for that at all.
So it was kind of nice having a group trip because when I wasn't up for doing something, at least Kamal could go with people from the group to do stuff, and that's like going to bars, going shopping or something, and I just took a nap. I was out till like 1 a.m. last night, like almost 2. We were dancing the night away since 10 p.m. and my body was sore. I was sweaty. I did a lot for somebody who's, a child, in my opinion. I'm just saying. So, like, when people were asking if we wanted to go out tonight, I was like, in my head, I was like, do I feel like going out? And the answer was no. There was one part of the trip where we were in Stratford-upon-Avon, and I don't know if I talk about this in the video because I haven't edited it yet, but I literally had to sleep on the bus that drove us there. So luckily the bus was in a parking lot, and I text one of the women that was coordinating the trip, and I was like, by any chance, is the bus nearby, or did it leave for the day? Because I tried to shake it off. Like, we had lunch that day when we got to the town, and we walked around a bit, but I just could not shake this tiredness. And I was even willing to like get a mani pedi, and so we could just sit in a chair and I could sleep while they did my pedicure. But by the time we went, it was so full that they were like, "Oh, come back in an hour," and I was like, "I need to sleep like now." So I finally caved, text the coordinator, went to the bus. He just so happened to be there, and I was like, "I am so sorry, but I am so tired. Can I please just like sleep in the back of the bus? Like, you don't have to turn on the air or anything because it was summer. I just need to close my eyes for a little while." So don't feel like you won't have a good time at all. Just really build it into the schedule, or have space for leniency or flexibility in your days, just in case. I wouldn't do more than like one activity a day, or try to like hit more than one city a day or anything like that. Try to keep it very minimal. And if you do find that you have more energy than you expected, then just sporadically go do those extra things. Food aversions was actually what hit me. Not like I was extremely nauseous from not wanting something, but I just was like, no, I don't want that. Or when I found out we were finishing up a month of being vegan, I can't fully remember. So we had a lot of like tofu, and we were getting like Beyond Meat and stuff like that. And suddenly, processed vegan meats that like I just could not handle anymore. I just didn't want it. But again, I didn't like vomit if I had it. So this was occurring during the month that we were in Europe. Being on a group trip and meals being provided, which is why I mentioned that. So that meant that the menu is pretty fixed. So when we ate at the Abbey, there were some times that I just wasn't a fan of what was being served. By no means did I starve, and your first trimester is a time where this happens often. So I would consider that, especially if you're going out of the country and to a country very different from your own in your first trimester. Great Britain is not that different from the United States in cuisine, I would say. They have very specific dishes, obviously, but not so extreme. But Portugal, there were obviously dishes that were very different from at home. I would just consider that when choosing a destination for your first trimester. Controversial. I did still have alcoholic beverages throughout this trip, like sips or small amounts. Honestly, sometimes I just want the taste of wine or the taste of something, but I by no means can ever drink the whole thing. But I wouldn't do something like shots, which I was offered, and Kamau loves telling this story. I did drink in moderation, and that is totally a personal choice. I actually am happy that I did, because gin and tonics in Europe are so much better, especially in Portugal, so much better than in America. I would have been kind of sad that I would have missed out on that bloating. I don't know. I think this happens to a lot of pregnant women, but it doesn't happen to everybody. My bloating, again, I was 9 to 10 weeks when we went on this trip. To me, intense. So like, I'm a bigger girl. You're constantly holding in your stomach throughout your life, and you don't really realize it. Like, you're trying to look slimmer. Well, at that time in my pregnancy, some of the belly was just me. Love handles and all. It got pretty round. And I think that I could tell, Mal can tell, because we know my body the best. I don't know what it looks, I don't know what it seems like to others, but what it seemed like in my head to others was just that I was gaining weight, or I was just round. Like, I'm just a round person. So I don't want to look pregnant now, 9 to 10 weeks, before I'm actually like full on pregnant. Let me explain. And I know this doesn't apply to everybody, but this is what made packing for this trip kind of hard because it's summertime and I hate being hot. And Europe had a very hot summer in 2022. I didn't want somebody to be like, oh, you're pregnant. How many weeks are you? Them thinking I'm like 20 something weeks and I'm literally in the beginning. It was just one of those things where I was like, I don't want to look pregnant yet. When packing for this trip, I paid a lot of I tried outfits before we went, and I didn't want to buy like maternity things yet. It was more so like I just needed like a size up. Biking shorts or like workout shorts. Those were perfect. And then like flowy dresses and stuff were perfect. Your physical activity will be different. Yeah. I kind of touched on this already, but I thought this would be a good point in itself to talk a little bit more about. Yes, you're tired. I had to come to terms with not being able to do as much as I usually do. Anytime we did something where we had to walk a lot, I was just a lot slower than I usually was. And Kamal has long legs, so he could get to places already a lot faster than me. But even when we first started dating, I was able to keep up with him more. And now I'm not a spring chicken and I was pregnant. If you feel like, again, like if you're traveling with someone, your partner, or you're just your travel partner who's used to you being able to do other, really adventurous things or high activity things or busting out like a shopping trip in one full day in London or something like that, which we actually had a day in London on this trip. And I feel like we did a good amount of stuff, but then I think about like other trips in the past and like we would have stayed out longer. You really have to think about like how much you can do and just be realistic. I think that you're better off preparing to do less and then being able to add on more later than you plan for more and you have to unfortunately cancel or change people's plans or your own plans. My last point, and I think I'm gonna have something like this in each trimester video, things that I had to pack specifically because I was pregnant. So my battery died. Let's start this again. So there's a couple of things that I packed that were specifically because I was pregnant. So you may or may not need these things, but these are things to consider. One thing that I packed to track my blood pressure was my blood pressure machine. I also brought it in for every trimester because of my own pre-existing conditions, and me and my doctors just wanted to monitor as much as possible, so I brought my machine with me. It's kind of inconvenient, but it's worth it, obviously, for peace of mind. So that's just something to think about. Another thing that I brought was compression socks. I guess I might have brought them even if I wasn't pregnant, but I was more pressed to bring them because I was pregnant. And I knew having a long flight and blood clots and all that stuff, I was like, let me make sure I wear them. I put them on, since it was summer, I put them on once I was on the plane, which with a bloated belly or a growing belly over time, it got a little more difficult to do. So I try to always put them on when I'm at home. But in the summertime, it was kind of awkward to have compression socks on in the middle of summer. I also decided to braid my hair for this trip. As the week went on, it didn't look exactly or did exactly what I wanted because they were really heavy, and so it was hard to put it up. I would think about that also when you're preparing for your trips. The other thing is obviously bring your vitamins and medication. Very, very, very important, especially when you're going out of the country. So I made sure I had all my prenatal vitamins. My prenatal vitamin didn't have, what was it, DHA, so I had that separately. I brought some prenatal probiotics with me, brought like my medication. I didn't have too much at that point. Towards the other two videos, I will talk about there's by this next video I'll have more medication that I have to bring with me. You can pretty much pack like normal. Like I talked about when I was talking about bloating, I think that yeah, you might want to be very conscious about what outfits you bring, so you're most comfortable. For the most part, for a very typical healthy pregnancy, you don't have to bring much. I would say just make sure that you have your prenatals, but honestly, if you forget your prenatals, you can always buy some more while you're, regardless of most, I would say most if not all countries, maybe like a language barrier, maybe the like translation so you can find them. Forget your prenatals is not the end of the world when you're traveling, especially if you're traveling within your own country. You can find like a Walgreens or something, or whatever the pharmacy is in your country. Well, that's all for this video. Congrats to all the expecting parents that are watching it. I'm very happy that you decided to click on this video, and I hope that you found some parts of this very informative. If you have more questions, please feel free to leave comments in the comment section below. If you are curious about how the rest of my pregnancy travel went in the second and third trimester, please make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell, because that is probably one of the only ways that you will realize that I've posted a new video about this. And this is the first type of pregnancy video I've filmed. So for some encouragement, please give me a like, a thumbs up, if you thought this was great and I should do more. I'm starting with these first 3 videos, but we definitely hope to have more pregnancy videos, like flying while pregnant, hopefully, and packing while pregnant, to kind of like consolidate some of the tips that I'm giving in these first 3. So hopefully, if you guys like these, it'll encourage me to do those as well. Until next time, bye!